Good to go.
Yeah. Okay, good morning. I'm joined with my friend Dez Futak, and we are talking about Bristol Spring today, particularly the Spring Boards, which launched about 9 months ago. They came out of one of our gatherings at the Boston Tea Party, and I saw a bunch of people around a table. There was someone supplying snacks to tech companies in London. There was a top developer coding satellite and drones. There was someone who's amazing with cash flow. There's a blue sky thinker. There were just the people around the table. I thought, oh my gosh, that is a board of directors. If you had those people on your board, you couldn't find that anywhere, because they're not only specialist experts, they're just amazing. And then I thought, well, why don't we create these boards where we put people together and they get half an hour of undivided attention from each other. They can bring any challenge, personal, obviously business, marketing, cash flow, anything to each other, and 5x their decision making by harnessing the wisdom of the crowd, wisdom of that community, and also get prayer and emotional support and everything like that. And so we've had 4 that have been going this year. Dez has been part of one, and I just thought it'd be really great just to hear the behind the scenes, lift the lid on it. What's it been like? What are they? But first of all, Dez, what do you do?
Simply build websites.
Okay.
And in the last couple of years, I've narrowed that down into building websites for a particular industry, that is the music industry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's quite a new sort of venture in a very old business.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that with my sister, which is also really cool.
Yeah.
And so far we're sort of out of the development stage and really just about to kind of test the market.
Yeah.
And we've kind of got an advantage in that my sister's been in the music industry for best part of 40 years, so she has a huge number of connections both abroad and in London, so we think we've got a great opportunity to kind of provide value to a very struggling market.
Yeah.
So that's the basic premise.
I remember you saying that, because there are lots of platforms out there, but they're quite expensive and they don't have the particular things the artists are after. So you've built an actual platform that can take into account those particular things they have on the wish list that the generic Squarespace or Wix don't deal with.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the slightly crazy thing that we're doing, which is really it's probably our biggest USP, is that rather than charging a lot of money up front for doing the design for them, we're actually just charging them a monthly fee with no money up front, so the risk is all on us.
Okay.
And I think we're able to do that because we've got everything vertically integrated, and we're not going to have increased significant costs as we scale up. And so rather than us taking advantage of that, we want to give that to the musicians. So I think it's an experiment, but I think it's a fun one.
Yeah. Okay. Looking forward to hearing how that goes. Early stage, going to market, and now be the reiteration, the distribution, and that feedback loop. So the Spring Boards, it's about 9 months ago, I guess it started. Why did you join one, and what did you think it was? Why did you think, hey, I'll get involved in that? Well, what was it to you in the abstract? Because we kind of shared some vision, but of course they didn't exist until you were kind of both a participant but also a guinea pig, in that there was a vision for it, but we wanted to release it into the wild and see what it becomes, much like any startup. Yeah. It was an MVP, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, about, 16 years ago, when I first started out in business, I did actually join up with a group of other business owners in Bristol, who I'm still in contact with some of them, which is great. Yeah. And none of those are Christians, but they're all lovely people, and that was really helpful. I think what I really missed was having that extra kind of wisdom that comes from God and being able to prayer support one another. And so I think when you said about Spring Board happening, I thought, wow, this could kind of take things up another level, because it's not just about how to make your business successful. It's really about, well, what's God saying in this? What's the kingdom values that you're trying to emulate and grow? And this business is just a vehicle for that to happen. So for me, there's a bit, I think it's in Luke 18, where Jesus says, use worldly wealth to gain for yourselves friends so that they may kind of receive salvation. That's me paraphrasing badly, but So for me, business is a very holistic exercise, and to have a bunch of people on from beginning to middle to very successful in one group, as it turns out, has been just so much better than I thought it could be, really, in terms of having the right perspective of what business means to me as a Christian.
Yeah.
That sums it up.
Yeah. So there is the efficiency aspect of business. How can I make my business do better than it would have done by getting people with another set of eyes on it? Either experience where people will critique what you're doing or maybe disagree with you, or saying actually you go faster, you should go slower. It wasn't just that, but it was particularly as a Christian, okay, how having brothers and sisters in Christ looking over your shoulder as well, and speaking from that point of view. So there's an aspect of like fellowship you're after as well, you know.
Yeah, although I didn't necessarily realise that at first.
Okay.
Funnily enough, for me it was more just a case of, I'm definitely going to get something out of this, and because I've been a Christian a long time and I've been in business a relatively long time, I know I can give something. Yeah. So it was a little bit more transactional than the kind of the what you described, but actually it's ended up being really good, and although we only see each other once a month, I'm beginning to feel like these are friends, because I actually care about them, and I'm starting to pray for them outside of that meeting, so that's always a good sign.
And so they're actually, and the goal in Spring is let's actually make friends. If you actually make friends, then there's pastoral care, there's support. Anyone I know is now your friends, or I'll try and get them to help you, but that comes out of that place of friendship and care, where you pray for people. So you was that like a surprise that it became that? Because obviously when I started off and I did visions and values, Chatham House rules, I had all these like documents trying to pin down what is it. I knew it would be five or six people in a room who get to bring a challenge each week, and everyone listens and critiques, gives feedback to that person, saying this is how I've handled it. So you end up with a range of views just to prop it up. But I suppose it wasn't transactional in my mind, but there was certainly, this is like a board meeting about the business, but it sounds like it's gone way beyond that.
Kind of, although I would say actually it's moving. I think actually that ability to speak quite honestly and powerfully and helpfully into other people's lives only ever comes on the back of relationships, so we would hope anyway. Sure. I think as Christians that really is the right way around. So I think it's probably only more recently that that is emerging naturally, whereas I'd say the primary thing that I've noticed amongst all of us is just being able to support one another in prayer and listen to God for one another, and then speak out what we believe the Holy Spirit is saying to one another. And that to me is just very, very powerful. So, and obviously the nitty gritty is incredibly important, because God is a God of detail as well as God of big picture. He can do both.
Sure.
And so I think that is naturally emerging in our particular group over time as we learn to trust one another and sort of take our guards down, because invariably if you're only meeting once a month, you aren't the progress of those relationships is necessarily more slow.
Sure.
But I think it's the right kind of rhythm, because having a month gap gives you the opportunity to kind of go, okay, well, this is what it was like last month for them and for me. It also gives you that feedback, like, well, how am I doing? I said I was going to do this. Have I managed to do that? And if not, why not? So there's a really good opportunity to reflect.
Accountability to others creates accountability to yourself.
100%, as always.
Because if someone has spent 20 minutes, half an hour listening and praying for you about, like, I pray that Dez will do this thing on his to-do list that he hasn't done for 6 months.
Yeah, well, what's going on?
And then we haven't done it in a month. I feel a bit silly. Like,
but
that
beyond
was a waste of time.
But also, I think beyond that sort of aspect of it, I think it gives you a greater degree of honesty with yourself as well, because you I don't really want to mess around. I'm no longer a young man. I'm not an old man, but it's not that far away. So I think the time I've got left on this planet, I want it to be fruitful and useful. And I think the Springboard with particular guys that we've got has really, I think, kept me kind of focused on where I believed I should go from the start. Because I think one of the issues for all of us as entrepreneurs and as Christians is project drift, motivation drift as things happen. you know, when you're flexible with whatever God wants, that can actually lead you into places where God doesn't necessarily want you to go, but you feel, you know, sometimes you can use your Christian walk as an excuse not to be accountable to yourself or to, you know, and I don't think there is any of that in our group, but I think it's really helpful to have these ongoing relationships where, you know, we are allowing the others to kind of spotlight out us in a really loving, gracious, gentle way.
By spotlight, you mean challenge?
Well, yes.
I'm
yes
wondering
and no.
whether
Yeah,
I'm wondering because everyone is. I picture group so loving and kind, but care and confrontation in terms of, like I've said to you, you've said to me, you know, which will be. It sounds like you say you want to do this, but it sounds like most of your time's going over here actually.
Yeah. So what's going on?
How do those two speak to each other?
Yeah.
What do you really want?
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, I think it will partly depend on the personalities of the groups and how some people are really good at articulating that sort of pointing things out without coming across as critical, and you know, you're really good at that, and Paul's really good at that, who leads the group. And so I think to have one person who's got those kind of people skills to be able to, I think, model it to the rest of us who are kind of a bit rough around the edges. I think it's been really.
It's a way of loving each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's many good things that happen within such a group, and I think for me the biggest thing is I know I've got some stuff to give, and I know I've got some stuff to receive, and I think those sorts of groups work really well when everyone has that mindset that actually, you know, we have got something we can give, even if we're just starting out. We've got a relationship with God. We've got a collective past experience. So yeah, I would say confrontation is.
Maybe that's the wrong word. That's a negative word.
No, not really. Well, I don't mind if it's a negative word, because sometimes you need to be.
But in Congress, the gap between what we believe of ourselves. I really want to do such and such. Yeah. But often our behaviours can be pointing elsewhere. It's a bit like where Tom says bear left, and there isn't a left. That's quite stressful.
Go into that.
And often we have these belief systems. I want to build a business that does such and such. But actually, if we're always avoiding doing the things we need to do that, maybe we're really, by the work of the Spirit, drawn in a different direction, and having people to say, I could really imagine you doing really well at this. Why are you doing that? Or
I think for all of us in the group, we've all got a particular thing that we're doing, almost without exception. Yeah. And I think the biggest help for I'm going to make this as a statement of belief really rather than a fact, because I don't really know, but I think the biggest help for all of us is to help us kind of stay in our lane, which sounds a bit kind of, you know, like that, but I think that is, for some of us, at least for people like myself, kind of, you know, creative arty-farty types, which I am one, as well as a techie person, it's very easy to kind of just go all over the place, and as I've got older, I've got better at kind of.
Here's something shiny.
Obviously, that's the biggest ADHD problem that most entrepreneurs have, you know. But that aside, I think just having a sense of us all being there to just kind of keep each other on track, you know. Yeah. I think
stay in the lane, have a discipline. Yeah. This is important. I probably should have asked right at the beginning, but when you come together, how often? Where do you meet? Talk. What's it like? Are you sitting down? Are you walking? Are you in an office?
Yeah, I mean, walking is definitely an option for some people, because to sit down would be a nightmare for them. But certainly for everyone in the dynamics in our group.
Where do you meet? For example?
We meet in a coffee shop, and at sort of 9:30 in the morning.
Coffee one?
Probably,
private space, or just find a corner.
Find a space, and it's early-ish in the morning, early enough so that we can get on with the rest of our day after we finish meeting, and we meet for 2 hours. Okay. So that's just the choice we've made. It gives each other enough time and space to be able to listen to one another and pray for one another, and also listen to God, because I think that makes the big difference, really. You know, sometimes people have shared pictures or words to one another, which has been really helpful. Yeah. And you I think so I think that kind of venue works really well for us.
So I know the format I imagined, but what what is I'd imagine with Paul Taylor involved there will be a format because the
That's
guy
good.
because he is just
Yeah.
so kind of thinking through
Yeah.
how do we squeeze out the juice in this orange. He's
Yeah,
brilliant
yeah.
at that, isn't he? What's the format for you guys? I'm not
Yeah.
saying it'll be the same for everyone, probably isn't, but
I mean, it's pretty standard sort of
buy
thing,
a
really.
coffee, sit down.
Buy a
number one.
coffee, sit down, have a bit of a catch up. When we're all there, one person starts talking, and then we pray for them, and then we go on to the next person. They talk, and we pray for them. So we do it in turn.
And
So
have they prepared that in advance? What they're bringing? Do they eat? I think there's a WhatsApp group, but do
Yeah.
people share in advance for the reflective thinkers, or is it like a
That I wouldn't say that's particularly happened in a deliberate way. I think it's happened when it's happened. I think it's more the WhatsApp group that we've got. It's more just ongoing prayer support for any firefighting or any kind of big issues or things that we really value prayer for, ad hoc, which is fine. You know, other groups might actually. That's a really good point. Might use the WhatsApp group as a kind of a way of squeezing even more juice out of the orange, you know, so that when you do meet, you already know what you're going to pray about, and you can just kind of say, well, actually, you know, based on what you just said, I felt God was saying da 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 da. We haven't done that, but that's fine. I mean, all of us, I would say, we're all doing lots of things apart from running a business, and so for us, that the format we've got works really well. Once a month, a bit of catch up ad hoc on WhatsApp, as and when, but with no expectation that you have to. Actually works really well for all of us in our various stages of life, I would say.
brilliant?
Yeah.
And so each person brings something, whatever it is. It might be work, it might be personal, it might be a combination.
It's always a mixture. It's always a mixture.
I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Which it needs to be, I think.
And I find when I meet up with people for a walk, it would be so nice if we were just, you know, a go-to-market challenge, because I'm like, weirdly that'd be easier, but normally it's actually balancing work-life, kids who can be struggling, exams, aging parents, and then stress and anxiety around the business, and then personal cash flow, and it's like this massive melting pot. It's just people.
Yes. Yeah.
When you meet it, it's just people. So you have that people share, and then what happens? Do you pass a talking stick or something?
Yeah, but you could do that. But we just we go around either anti-clockwise or clockwise around the table, and
is it a question that is brought, or
not
just
really,
or just an update? This is me. Off you go.
What's been happening, and you know, and sometimes Paul's really good. Sometimes he'll say, "Well, last time you mentioned da da da. How's that going?" You know, which is great.
So the question isn't coming from the person in the spotlight. The questions are actually coming from the group.
It's a bit of both.
So your job as members to turn up, make sure you actually look. This is me.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. I think there's it's a very dynamic, you know, two-way thing on every front, and I think that works really well for us with our personality types. So it's funny because I think all of us could go, oh, actually, I'm too busy for this, and I would say everybody watching this video would go, oh, that sounds like a big commitment. And it is in one sense, but it's only 2 hours a month. If you think about it in another way, there's 168 hours in a week, so that's a very small fraction of a person's month. But as you said, that kind of virtual board of directors kind of feel where you've got the collective wisdom, not only from experience but also godly wisdom as well. I think it's kind of it can.
It's a game changer.
I think so, because ultimately, you know, whether or not a business is successful in the world's eyes is not the issue. It's really, am I doing what I should be doing in terms of you know, making good on my responsibilities, but also am I open to what God wants? Because it's very easy for us to kind of go like that and just kind of say, I'll see you later, God. You know, thanks for the instructions, thanks for the manual, bye, see you later. Whereas Jesus is asking us to walk with him. You know, take my yoke upon you. You know, it's easy. My burden is light. So actually, to kind of come to a meeting where you're acknowledging that actually God is the CEO of my business, that is a massive thing. And I think
in itself, before anyone started it, when you read the New Testament, you keep getting this phrase: one another, they love one another, they serve one another, they carry one another's burdens. The one another's, and spring is that image of washing one another's feet, where there's that mutuality, where you turn up as someone who's there to serve, but you actually, I need help as well. I'm curious. So for you, is there a moment in time in the springboard for you in this first 9 months where it's changed the decisions you've made, or you either ethically or efficiently, where you went in thinking you were going to do a particular course of action and you've done something a bit different as a result of it?
Not directly from the Springboard. It'd be lovely if I could say that. I think what Springboard has helped me to do is stay in my lane, stay focused, which is brilliant. So that that to me is a huge thing, because project drift or MVP drift or whatever you want to call it is such a tendency when things aren't working as quickly as you want them to, because they always take much longer usually, to actually be able to keep going with something is incredibly helpful. But I would say outside of that sort of small group setting, when we have our networking meeting once a month on a Friday morning, I spoke with, I think, Duncan Reed, who's been in the music industry. This was like quite early on, and he sort of pointed out, he said, look, if you don't try and be another Squarespace, just don't bother, don't try. And it was great. And he said, look, if you want to really stick out, why don't you actually do everything for them? And when I heard that, my first thought was, oh no, I don't want to do that. That's a lot of work.
Everything meaning?
Well, as in, we'll do the web design, we'll do everything. We'll actually design your website for you, And when I thought about it further, when I thought through the knock-on effect of that and compared it against what I thought was going to be what we were going to do, when I looked at it, actually, it was probably about the same amount of total time commitment, which sounds kind of paradoxical. And so I thought, do you know what? I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Someone who's been in the music industry for a long time, works in digital marketing now, knows his stuff so like the back of his hand, and is a Christian, and wouldn't say something to you for the wrong reasons. I think the screen's just gone blank, but hopefully it's still recording. So I think that mixture of having the kind of the monthly meetup, but then also rubbing shoulders with other people in the kind of the coffee.
And then cross further, and then you can even bring that.
Literally.
I love what you're saying about staying in your lane and running the race, and that Hebrews 10, spurring one another on.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Rather than the assumption that we should be doing something else somewhere else, because it's like your first radio. Like if you're in totally the wrong lane, that'd be concerning. But it's more having people saying, Des, keep going. That's great that you spoke to Duncan. Are you going to follow the advice?
Yeah, well, I have been. We did pivot. We did actually pivot. More or less as soon as he said that, I thought there's a lot of wisdom in this.
Yeah.
He's right. This isn't what I kind of envisioned, what I wanted. But the reason why I didn't want to do that is because I thought it was a lot more work. But actually thinking it through very carefully with the way we've set things up,
a lot more customers.
It's going to end up about the same amount of work, but with a huge amount of upside for our customers, but also so much better in terms of relationship we'll have with them, because at the end of the day, when everything else fades, you've got the relationships with people. Yeah. Because you've got to remember that business is always people. Really, it maybe initially a transactional relationship may always stay that way. But if you can somehow make people the thing rather than revenue or kind of financial outcomes, then I think actually you win anyway.
Yes.
Even if your business never gets to 7 or 8 figures, if it only gets to like 5 figures or 6 figures, doesn't I think that's more important for me as a kingdom principle. Yeah. So and of course there will be revenue opportunities that will come off the back of those good relationships. Sure. Invariably there always are. So I don't think we have to worry about that. No. So the pivot actually happened as a result of the
another conversation.
But
then you can bring that into the group and hey, I'm pivoting this way, and I'm sure there are people there who would go, oh, I'd be very concerned about this, or that makes sense. Yeah. How do you feel about it? Was it a knee-jerk reaction, or does it fit? So the question I've got is, you've been around church a long time, so have I. You're in small groups, that kind of expression of church, so am I. We've led home groups for 18 years. And one of my desires in this was, when I've been doing businessy things, for whatever reason, I can't bring it to a home group setting. And I lead the home group. So this isn't an anti-home group. It's the same. Hayes and I lead the home group in our homes, around this table. Yeah. These are nice, aren't they? One of the YWAMs gave these flowers to us. But we do it right here. But for whatever reason, that part of me, home group seems to be talk about children. We talk about the Alpha course. We talk about I say more home life, sharing our faith with colleagues.
Yeah.
The Bible study. It is far-reaching, but I don't think anyone's ever turned up to home group and said, "Oh yeah, prayer request. I've got negative cash flow. My runway is only 12 weeks." Maybe that happens, but my hope would be so to have a space where you can actually, because of the God and Mammon, the secular sacred divide, maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't. It feels like there can be that gap between the things God is most interested in, even though that is nonsense. Culturally, the undercurrents can be there, and I'm just wondering, what is the difference for you between the springboard, both the fellowship and how much of you turns up in the work stuff, and a normal church home group? Have you experienced it? Does it meet an unmet need? I suppose that's my desire, and it might be. I don't know what the question is. Something in there.
Well, for every Christian who wants to run their own business, they're doing something doubly different, in the sense that, you know, it's actually quite uncommon to want to run a business anyway, because all the responsibilities that come with it and the very well known failure rate. And so on.
70%.
Yeah. But
why does anyone do it? They're mad.
Yeah, well, we are mad, but then I think secondary to that, I think to be a Christian and a business owner is even more unusual, and so that's just the reality, isn't it? If you're in a home group setting, there's a 99% chance that you are going to be the only person in the group who is a business owner. You know, it depends on what sort of strata of society you exist in and what sort of church you go to, but it's much more likely that the rest of the people in the group won't be running a business. And so necessarily that means the preoccupations of everybody will be on other things, which is absolutely cool. And I think Springboard does make a massive difference to those of us who are mad enough to kind of double down and want to do, you know, want to handle money in a godly way, in a good way, and kingdom values, and bring those into the world through running a business. So absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, if you are currently just spinning your wheels on your own and you're not part of a Springboard, definitely, you know, reconsider, because it's not a huge investment of time, but the potential upside, even just for your mental health, is very significant. Because I think it's so easy to just struggle on your own, and even have success on your own, and that's also just as dangerous, because having success on your own, you might make some really poor decisions along the way, which can negatively impact people. Whereas if you have a group of people around you just reflecting Kingdom of God values on your route to success, you'll do success completely differently. You'll have a different set of values along the way, and I think you're much more likely to make it a triple win. You know, that's the goal. That's the sweet spot. I think,
and it's
life,
a designated space of people who get that.
And
who will say, you need to write that email, but don't click send. Or something.
For example,
I get you're angry, or I get you're disappointed. I get you feel betrayed right now, or whatever it might be. And the number of times I'll speak to a spouse, husband or wife, and they're just so chuffed that their partner has other people they can talk to.
100%.
Because they don't.
Well, they can't necessarily.
They have more love than anyone else, but in terms of actually understanding the unique pressures, it is an unusual journey, and I think having that in common. So it is. It's offered that for you, a designated space.
Definitely.
And trust is a key issue. And much like any home group, you know, people will turn up to a church, cell group, home group, but developing trust takes time. And when we rush past that, that's probably ill-advised, because trust is earned, isn't it? Based on whether people listen, whether they remember, whether they're discreet. So there are a lot of things that build trust. How have you built trust in your Springboard?
I mean, a number of different ways, as you just said, really. I think one is truly listening to understand. I think for all of us, we're actually really good at that, as it happens.
What do you mean?
Well,
no, say it again.
What? What time? So I think that is actually foundational to any sort of relationship, isn't it? And so that is present in all of us.
So having an unconditional space where people just get to say stuff without people jumping on it, just allow a bit of space to be heard.
Yeah. So that's definitely, and you can't guarantee that's going to be the case. You hope it is, but I think if the vast majority of any group has got that as a mindset of listening to understand, those in the group that they'll kind of catch up quick because they'll see the value of it. I think when it's modelled, it's always much more powerful, and to be in a small group where that happens is really amazing. So that's the first thing, and then the second thing I think is really, I think, just having a mindset of I want that person to be blessed, and I want that person to not win in the worldly sense, but I want, whatever the outcome is, I want there to be a good wake left in the train, behind. Like a ship going through waters, it leaves a wake behind it. And you want the wake behind our lives for all of us to be something that people celebrate rather than people groan at. And I think if you can run a business that way, and if you can inculcate those sorts of values in one another, by the questions you ask, by the care that you demonstrate, by the way you model it yourself, then it just takes everything to a different level completely.
Yeah.
Because the world's idea about what winning means is so kind of tiny compared to the way God sees what winning means. So for the people that are more wired to win, and some more than others, I think to do that in a godly way, that's just so exciting, because it's never seen. It's not necessarily something that you talk about in church, because it's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a way. I think godly winning is another level of redemption in a way that we all need. The kind of the. So I'm going off topic here a little bit, but So in the group, for the group to work really well, to be able to listen, to understand, to be able to really want to bless one another, to go in there thinking, I could have a massive positive impact on that person's life in 10 years' time by something I said once that I would have forgotten about, but they haven't.
Yes.
That's the way it works, isn't it?
It is.
So I think that's quite exciting, really.
Yeah, and speaking words of life, in a therapeutic space, we talk about empathy. Understanding what it's like to be the other person from their point of view, not your point of view. Walking around in their shoes, as Atticus said to Jem in To Kill a Mockingbird. Congruence, being real with someone, so actually, which involves grace but truth, like being truth tellers to one another. Yeah. I'm really worried about your change in strategy here. I'm not saying that to you, but, sounds good. But actually being able to say, it feels like you're struggling more than you're letting on, and I'm worried that you will have a breaking point at some point, or having that reality. So empathy, congruence, and then most importantly, non-judgmental, unconditional space. Yeah. So that, and I think those things are really important in the therapeutic world. And you've just said some of that about developing trust, where someone can actually bring something that's maybe even a liability or a fault. Yeah. Or as what one individual actually said, I have some surplus cash, and I read Jesus' words about the eye of the needle, and do I give it all away, or do I invest it, or what an amazing situation to have someone who's, because sometimes people would be afraid to bring that question because there'll be a cookie cutter answer. The young rich man, the barns and the fool tearing down barns and building bigger barns, but then we've got Joseph who presumably built bigger barns and saved the world from famine. So we know it's not about the barn. There's something else going on there as well. But to have that kind of space where people can bring things without being worried about being entrapped or something. To be honest. Yeah,
and that necessarily takes time as well, because some people are just inherently much more open than others, and I think it probably depends on how much you've been sort of burned, how much of your fingers burned in life. So I think it's good to kind of have that rhythm, really, and for us, meeting once a month has been excellent. It's been just the right amount of gap and good enough regularity, so that you do get to build those friendships over time. Awesome.
So we set a high bar at the beginning in terms of trying to tell people, look, there are a lot of things you pop along if you can, like our gatherings, the burger and beer nights, but on this, if this, in fact, I got the model from my friend John, who was part of one with a business life coach kind of person, and it was hundreds a month of pounds in terms of the value, because he's meeting up with other CEOs. So the price is what you pay, value is what you get. So we've got the value and it's free. So we want to do everything for free because we're washing one another's feet. We want to do this before God to one another. It's beautiful. The danger of things that are free is sometimes there'll be a low bar of entry, and so I'm just wondering, like, how have you built a commitment? Or does that happen on its own?
I mean, very practically, if you're only meeting 2 hours a month, it's actually a very low commitment. You know, and I think that's important for people to understand that this.
But do you hold each other to it? No, we don't. Everyone's just.
Everyone
really grateful it turns up.
Well, everyone wants to be there, and there's only been a couple of times when one or two people haven't been able to be there. But I think we all recognise
for really good reasons. And,
absolutely. But I think we all recognise the value. Without any, it doesn't really take us a lot of.
And the minute you're pointing to a constitution, number 7 says you will turn up. And the minute you're doing that, you've kind of lost.
Well, obviously, but I think we're all sensible adults.
Everyone's
and I think,
really up for it.
but I think on a practical note, we try and book our meetings 3, 4, 5 months in advance. So
literally.
Yeah, so we know that every Monday, first Monday of the month, we're going to be meeting up for coffee.
So if someone else organise stuff, I can't. I'm in a meeting.
And it's it just happens to be at a time of day when most of us could make it, obviously. So I think just that small little thing of I don't know if we did that to start with or whether or not we did. Perhaps Paul will correct me on that. But just being able to say, okay, well, I know that Monday for 2 hours I'm going to be doing this. It's fine, you know. It's not a massive thing. I think, you know, but the upside is massive in my view, for all the reasons that we've just been talking about.
Have there been any hard things?
It's hard to say because each one of us is at a different place in business. So for all of us, most of us have challenges in life. And so that's where the hard stuff is happening in life. And I think being able to bring that into the group, and it's a mixed metaphor, softens that hardness in a way, because it enables us to kind of, I suppose, bring it before God and to be very open and honest about some things that are difficult for us. And that, I think, is really good. And none of us necessarily, you know, there was no constitution so that we had to do any of that. But I think just the fact that we're able to share very honestly about struggles that we're having.
So it's led by a relationship. To not. And there's a commitment to confidentiality, everything that happens.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say. Trust is only built up if you really are able to be.
And that was expressed probably up front. What we talk about here, Stacia.
I don't know if it was, but I think all of us are mature enough to realise the value of that. And so that kind of it has gone without saying, but it is worth saying that actually confidentiality is the root of any relationship, and to respect that is really paramount, and that's the way it is. So there's stuff in the group that I don't share with my wife because it's something else for her to worry about. I don't want her to have to worry about or to think about, but also because I respect the people in the group, and I think that's the way it is with relationships, isn't it? You know.
That's amazing. So I might be starting a new springboard. I'd like to start lots of them. They are amazing. Every now and then Bristol Spring is an MVP. It is a startup as a concept. What would it be like to gather this group of people to connect and collaborate over coffee? So you end up meeting Duncan and having this conversation. I'm seeing him tomorrow actually. And then so you end up doing that, and then you end up with these springboards, and all of them are innovative, life-giving. Let's just see where it lands. Where's the fruit? And there'll be things that don't work, and we, like Jesus, chops off the branches that aren't working, and then other things become more fruitful. And I see the springboards as something that could definitely become more fruitful for more people. Not as another thing to go to, but as like a massive life-giving and thing where they could 5x whatever we say, their decisions. And why would you not want that? I mean, I would have been all over that when I was doing
Yeah.
startups, because I was kind of on my own. I was watching Dragon's Den
Yeah.
to try and find
Yes.
to try and
Some
find,
little nugget.
to
Yeah.
try and find some wisdom.
Yes.
And let me tell you, I would not go into business with any of them. You know.
Yeah.
So it's.
I mean, that is the essence of what Bristol Spring does. I think
Yeah.
the spring boards in particular. It kind of removes a lot of the kind of the guesswork, really.
Yeah.
Because, you know, but the collective wisdom between any particular group of people is at least 100 years.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I mean, that's just
Amazing.
life. And then if you add in the business experience that some people have got in the groups, whether or not they've, you know, done extremely well in the world's eyes or not, but just the fact that, you know, I've been in business since 2008 and I'm still here. I mean, that you know, to have that longevity, I think, is worth something, you know.
We've learnt a lot, and collectively, that's 100 years of mistakes we've all made
exactly.
that someone else doesn't need to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't repeat my mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, there's no need for that.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a really key point actually about what the Springboard does is it enables us to spot those things in one another, and if necessary to kind of course correct, you know, and just generally relationships as well, because I mean obviously my example was outside the Springboard, that actually was a significant change in the way we're going to do things, but
you processed the change inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit.
Absolutely, well, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
That's great. So I'm starting a new Springboard. Originally, Bristol Spring was called Spring Incubator. I thought it would be the Y Combinator for Christians, you know, as an accelerator incubator program. And then I thought, no, let's just make it a gathering of, you know, friendship and see what comes out.
Yeah.
But I am thinking of starting a Springboard in January and actually inviting people who are pre-revenue, brand new, first MVP, how they test their ideas.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and so I'm going to probably do that, but also to encourage others. But for people who've watched this or read a blog or heard it mentioned, any final thoughts or advice you want to give them? Oh, obviously, sounds like it's been positive.
Yeah.
And you've got some lovely people in your life as friends now as well.
Yes, definitely.
But would you?
I would say don't. Well, if you're just starting, particularly if you're in relation to what you're thinking of starting, I think when you're just new to business generally and you've got an idea, it's so tempting to kind of want the glory for yourself. It's so tempting to kind of want to use that as a kind of a mechanism to prove to yourself something.
Yes.
And I think that's a bit of a mistake. Personally,
I did it on my own. I've got what it takes.
I mean, I'm just talking from personal experiences. So not everyone suffers from that problem.
People
you know,
who have imposter syndrome and they're trying to deal with shadows from the
right.
past.
Yes.
Where I thought I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm going to now do the hardest thing ever to prove I'm.
Yeah, to either prove to yourself or to the world or the person that
or to the shadows.
Whatever. And I think actually. I think pretty quickly, if you are going to build relationships with other Christians in that context, your whole reason for doing, if it was that, is going to completely change in the positive direction. But even if you haven't got that as a kind of a life issue that you're working through, just being able to meet up with other people who are also have got a lot of energy, a lot of optimism, but also want God's wisdom. I think those things are actually quite a rare combination, you know. So actually, and then to have one or two people who have got a lot of experience, who are still up for it and want to support people on that journey, I can't see any reason why you wouldn't benefit from that personally.
No, that's fantastic. I always love chatting to you. It's been fun seeing the last week all this AI chat. Let's start with you and me.
Yeah.
If anyone's been, little asides, if you're in the WhatsApp community and you saw about 100 messages on AI, basically Dez and I were messaging each other and couldn't quite decide what we thought. So I created a poll.
Yeah, it was great. It's really good.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, springboards are more focused than that, but you've got a really curious mind, and I wish I was in a springboard with you, because every time we talk, I always come away with new thoughts I hadn't thought of.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's not something I consciously do. That's just the relation and that's another reason.
But you are, I think,
you
were a teacher a long time
ago.
I was. What was your subject?
Physics.
There we go. First principles.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you do start at atomic level where
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah.
and then say, well, if this is true, this must be true. Then
That's
and
a
you-
very
and you-
interesting insight.
Yeah, I thought it might have been maths, it was physics. So whenever we have a conversation, you do kind of almost reverse engineer what has to be the case.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And a lot of other people are more kind of, I feel this is the case, whereas some things are discoverable, you know.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing openly today.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Yeah.
I'm excited about the springboards, and let's, in 5 years' time, we'll look at this and see whether there are any springboards or lots of springboards.
Yeah, cool.
Or something else.
Awesome, Brad.
God bless you.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cool.